Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji, for leading the chanting this morning. Start with Mangalacharan. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminati Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshitarini Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktaranda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna, dear devotees, Tanvat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Okay, we'll continue with our prayer of the week from Sharanagati, introduction song by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Let me share the screen. Okay, anybody would like to sing today? Okay, Meenakshi Moini would like to sing.
Hare Krishna. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jivedoya Kori Swaparshada Suyadhama Saha Avatari Atyanta Durlabha Prema Kori Baredan Shikhaya Sharanagati Bhagatera Pram Denya Atma Nivedana Gopritve Varana Avashya Rakshibe Krishna Vishwasa Padana Bhakti Anukula Matra Karira Svikar Bhakti Pratikula Bhava Vajanangikar Sharanga Sharanagati Hoi Bejahar Tahara Prarthana Shune Shrinanda Kumar Rupa Sanatana Pade Dante Trina Kori Bhagati Vinoda Pure Dumupada Dhuri Kandiya Kandiya Bole Amito Adhama Shikhaya Sharanagati Karo He Uttama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Bhaktivinoda Thakur Maharaj ki jai, Shri Sharanagati ki jai.
Krishna, thank you so much. Anyone else to read the translation today? Okay, I can go ahead and read them. Okay, out of compassion for the fallen souls, Sri Krishna Chaitanya came to this world with his personal associates and divine abode to teach Sharanagati, the goal of surrender to the Almighty Godhead, and to freely distribute ecstatic love of God, which is ordinarily very difficult to obtain. This Sharanagati is the very life of the true devotee. The ways of Sharanagati are humility, dedication of the self, acceptance of the Lord as one's only maintainer, faith that Krishna will surely protect, execution of only those acts favorable to pure devotion, and renunciation of conduct adverse to pure devotion. The youthful son of Nanda Maharaj, Sri Krishna, hears the prayers of anyone who takes refuge in him by this sixfold practice. Bhaktivinoda places a straw between his teeth, prostrates himself before the two Goswamis, Sri Rupa and Sri Sanatana, and clasps their lotus feet with his hands. I am certainly the lowest of men, he tells them, weeping. But please make me the best of men by teaching me the ways of Sharanagati. Hare Krishna. Yeah, so this is the same method. Again, these are the 6 things that complete the Sharanagati. The process of surrender starts with humility, being humble. So when we do our services, we serve with humility, that it is not we as the doer, but it is we are just following the instructions of our acharyas, and the Lord is making us as an instrument in our service. When we get success in our services, again, it should not make us pride that or proud. The sense of pride should not come that, oh, I have done this or I have accomplished this. As soon as that comes, that again results in downfall. So humility is very important in whatever we do. So it's humbly, without taking any credit for the work we are doing, just serving selflessly. Dedication of the self. Prabhupada is teaching that again to his disciples as we are reading Prabhupada Leelamrit in Boston. They are serving. Dedication of the self as Atma Nivedanam, which is serving through body, mind, and words. Right? So we saw like how Satsvarup Goswami, who wrote this compiled this wonderful literature, a biography of Srila Prabhupada Leelamrit, he is serving Prabhupada through his body. When he came, he is cooking, and without making sure that that food that he's making is perfect, the prashadam. So, and he went to the universities, through his body. He's trying to go and get those preaching engagements of Srila Prabhupada in the universities in Harvard and other universities in Boston. So he's serving through his body menially. He's serving through his mind. He was meditating on Srila Prabhupada when he's traveling to his work. He's meditating on the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So when we chant, that is using our mind, because we have to cleanse the mind through the process of purification of chanting the holy names. And then through words, how we see, he's translating and he's editing Prabhupada's work from Srimad Bhagavatam translation that Prabhupada is doing. So like that, serving through body, mind, and self. So all of these qualities, and again, executing only those that are favorable for service, renouncing those that are not favorable, following the regulative principles is very big aspect of this. And then complete dependence on Srila Prabhupada, complete dependence on the Lord, that they are the maintainers, they are the protectors, right? So when the health issue arose for Pradyumna, even Satsarupa Maharaj again reached out to Prabhupada saying that whatever he will do will be perfect. Prabhupada had different mood. He wanted his disciples to start managing these day-to-day affairs of the centers, right? But he had complete surrender and complete belief that whatever Prabhupada will do, whatever Krishna will do, will be perfect. And yes, Pradyumna Prabhu got cured from his hernia operation. So like that. So you see all these wonderful qualities in Prabhupada Leela. So again, when we read these prayers, if we connect them back to our learnings from what we are reading or to our own personal lives, it reinforces those learnings. Yesterday, when we were at Louisville, Mataji, Amritakali Mataji was talking about certain pastimes of Prabhupada and her own pastimes, like how Prabhupada, after he left the world, like once she was saying that her mother, who lives in California, she had gone to India. And then when she was coming back from India, she was all by herself. And then she was mentioning that she is a disciple of my Guru Maharaj as well as Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. So when Guru Maharaj asked her how is she going, and then Mataji told Maharaj that she is traveling to America by herself, and she is an aged lady and she doesn't even know English. So Guru Maharaj was concerned, and she said, do you think she'll be able to go all right by herself? So he had some concern for her. Um, but anyway, she was alone, so she came. And midway, I think her fault was in London. And in London, so she had this wheelchair assistance. So, the wheelchair people, she had a layover there in London. So they brought her to the airport gate, and then somehow she was left there, and then nobody came to pick her up. and apparently she missed her connecting flight to America, to California. So then, but Mataji was saying that, she, in her mind, she was praying to the Lord. She had already, sought blessings of Guru Maharaj, and then she was praying to Lord Nityananda that, please, you protect her. She was going all by herself alone for the first time. But when she spoke with her mother, she said, are you afraid? Are you scared? Are you anxious that you're going? But she said, no, I'm not. The Lord will take care. So her mother was more strong. But anyway, so when she missed the flight, then she was saying that the past time happened that, another, she had a kanti mala in her neck, and she also, that time they were following, before coming to ISKCON, they were also followers of Swaminarayan. So she had that mala also in her neck. And then, out of nowhere, suddenly one Indian gentleman, I think Gujarati, probably noticed her. And then she said, Maiya, where do you want to go? I see you're sitting here. And then she explained that, I'm waiting here for the wheelchair. Nobody has come to take me. And then he went there to at the gate to find out that the flight has already departed. So then he personally took care of her, and he made sure that he got the tickets exchanged for her for the next flight. And he took her to the boarding gate where the flight was supposed to fly out from. And he personally was there until she was able to board her flight. So she was just narrating this pastime, and then she says that, we can see how here, maybe this, when she prayed to Nityananda Prabhu, Balaramji, and then, the Lord sent somebody to take care of her mother, and, success, and then she was able to come. Of course, she had full faith in the Lord. So like that, when we see these pastimes, when we can connect back to what we have read in pastimes, like Krishna coming personally to serve his devotees, Radharani coming personally to serve the Goswamis. Right? Krishna came to serve milk to Madhavendra Puri. He stole the cup of kheer for Madhavendra Puri in Kheer Chor Gopinath. Right? So like that, we see even today, there are so many miraculous pastimes that happen. When Nasid Krishna Maharaj came, he had shared something about Jagannath. So like that, we see even today, the Lord reciprocates with his pure devotees. She was saying many, many things. She was saying that Prabhupada came in the dream. So sometimes Prabhupada doesn't come directly in your dream. He'll come in another devotee's dream, and he will inspire that devotee to come and talk to you. Right? So like that, she shared a couple of other pastimes like that. So like that, we see if we have complete faith, then yes, the Lord reciprocates. Because that's what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying here. The youthful son of Nand Maharaj, Shri Krishna hears the prayers of anyone who takes refuge in him by the sixfold practice. Hare Krishna. Okay, so let's continue. Chapter 58 from Prabhupada Lilamrit, talking about the pastimes in Boston. So Prabhupada's first college lecture engagement in Boston was at Northeastern University. It was noon, and the paved campus in the center of downtown Boston was busy with thousands of students. Prabhupada, accompanied by a small band of his disciples, moved gravely through the crowds. At the entranceway to one of the main buildings was a large bronze statue of a dog, a husky, Northeastern's mascot. Prabhupada became amused. Some of the older disciples knew that Swamiji was sarcastically humorous about Americans' attachment to their dogs. Because now people have no interest in God, he would say, therefore they have become devoted to dog. Instead of worshipping God, materialistic people had become enamored with DOG, dog, and considered him as man's best friend. Some of Prabhupada's disciples had told him strange stories of how Americans pampered their dogs so much that dogs sometimes sit at the dinner table with their masters or receive their master's property through the master's will. Pausing silently regarding the almost deified form of the dog, Prabhupada scored an unspoken criticism of Western values. About 200 students and a few teachers crowded into the pews of the small chapel, while Prabhupada sat cross-legged on a cloth-covered table. Satswarupa led the kirtan, playing on a one-headed drum. After the kirtan, Prabhupada leaned forward to the microphone. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he began to lecture about the three aspects of the Absolute Truth, which he compared to the three aspects of the sun: the sunshine, the sun globe, and the sun god. Although the Absolute Truth is one, some persons see him as impersonal, all-pervading light. Some see him as the localized supersoul in the heart of all beings, and some see him as Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prabhupada's talk was very philosophical. Digressing, Prabhupada began talking more about the sun. He said that on the sun there was a presiding deity, Vivaswan. You can't disbelieve it, Prabhupada said, and he quoted the Mahabharata that on the sun are living entities with bodies of fire. Just as living entities, just as certain living entities have bodies adapted to living in water, so there are living entities that live in fire. The big noonday crowd listened politely. Prabhupada concluded his half-hour lecture by explaining God, the Supreme Being, as the origin of the material, external and spiritual internal energies. We living entities, although spiritual, have marginal position. All of us in this material world are covered by the external energy. The prayer of Hare Krishna means, "O my Lord, I am your part and parcel eternally, but some way or another I have fallen in this ignorance of material energy. Kindly lift me up to the spiritual energy." Although Prabhupada invited the audience to stay afterward and speak with his disciples, when the bell rang, the lecture abruptly ended, and most of the students immediately left the chapel to make room for the next group of students. It was the academic factory. Class was over, and Swamiji and his followers should now leave. As Prabhupada was walking down the hall, the wife of one of the college administrators joined him, walking at his side and chatting pleasantly and effusively, assuring him that everyone at the university was very glad he had come. She walked with him to the door and then shook his hand. Turning to Satswarupa, she exclaimed that everything had gone beautifully, that Swamiji had spoken wonderfully, and that she would send the $100 honorarium in the mail. Feeling excited and successful, the devotees accompanied Prabhupada to the car. Riding back to his house, Prabhupada agreed it had been a successful engagement. The Boston University engagement in spacious Marsh Chapel was poorly attended, despite thousands of students riding the trolleys and going in and out of the luncheonettes and big grey buildings that lined both sides of the Commonwealth Avenue for blocks. Only half a dozen came to Marsh Chapel to hear Swamiji. The devotees, pained and embarrassed, criticized Satswarupa for the turnout. Even the onstage arrangements were poor, with Prabhupada seated on a too high, rickety table. Yet, without hesitation, Prabhupada held a full program, beginning with a kirtan that lasted almost an hour. He requested Brahmananda, visiting from New York, to give an introductory speech. Then Prabhupada spoke, his voice reverberating over the sound system throughout the cavernous, empty chapel. After the lecture, Prabhupada called for questions. A boy standing at his seat and shouting to make himself heard asked, "Is this Advaita philosophy?" A challenge. The devotees could tell that this student had come with his own ideas about yoga and Advaita. "Do you know what is Advaita philosophy?" Prabhupada asked. "All is one," the boy replied. "Just as the rivers enter into the ocean, so we all enter into the ultimate oneness." Srila Prabhupada replied that although the river goes to the ocean, its place in the ocean is not permanent. Again, that water evaporates into the sky, forms clouds, and falls back onto the land. To argue that spiritually everything becomes one as the rivers go to the ocean, then the boy would have to accept the actual conclusion. The water again falls back onto the land. Similarly, those spirit souls who try to merge into the absolute must again fall back into the material world. Prabhupada thoroughly defeated the impersonal notion of oneness. The boy sat down silent. There were no other questions. Talking with his disciples afterwards, Prabhupada said sarcastically, "People today do not even know how to ask a good question. These impersonalists always ask the same hackneyed question about the river going into the ocean." On the way back to the temple, some of the devotees continued to grumble about Swamiji's having to go to an engagement with such a poor turnout. Brahmananda warned Satswarupa that the next engagement had better not be like this one. Prabhupada was well aware of the worldwide prestige of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in Cambridge. Many Indians went there to study. It was in fact an Indian organization that invited Prabhupada to speak. When Prabhupada arrived in the evening, he found over 100 people waiting in the carpeted, luxurious student lounge where he was to lecture. Some students were sitting on the floor, while others sat on the leather upholstered couches and chairs scattered casually throughout the room. Although it was time for the lecture to begin, the devotees had still not arrived with the paraphernalia. There was no flower garland for Prabhupada, no painting of Krishna, and no sign with the Mahamantra. The audience waited. In anxiety, Satswarupa asked Prabhupada, "Can you begin without the painting?" Looking at the large, momentous gathering, Srila Prabhupada said simply, Painting is not important. He sat on the plain wooden platform and, since the musical instruments had not arrived, asked one of the devotees to play the Hare Krishna album. Prabhupada sat clapping his hands in time and listening. Prabhupada spoke boldly, challenging the very concepts underlying MIT. Where in this big university, he asked, is a department for studying the technology of the soul, for understanding that principle which distinguishes a living body from a dead body, that principle which, when present in the body, gives life and when absent, brings death. Where is the science to study this all important principle of life? Although scientists consider life to be merely chemicals or electric impulses, he argued, still they are unable to assemble the chemicals and produce life. Why? There is no department in this university for answering this question, and therefore people are in ignorance. They don't know the self or the next life or the purpose of human life beyond animal activities. This science, however, is taught in the Bhagavad Gita. After the lecture, there were many questions. What is the symbolism, one student asked, of that object behind you on the stage? Prabhupada turned and beheld a bare U-shaped metal stand, compliments of the janitor for holding the paintings of Krishna that never arrived. This, Prabhupada frowned. I do not know what this is. This is some kind of technological symbol. Another student asked, why do you wear that marking on your forehead? Why do you wear that necktie around your neck? Prabhupada snapped back, annoyed with the question. The student sat down, looking at his necktie, and Prabhupada explained to him that questions about why people dress a certain way are trivial, especially considering the gravity of the present subject matter. When the question and answer period ended, Satsvarupa stood and briefly addressed the students, inviting them to attend other college lectures by Srila Prabhupada or to come hear him at the temple. Wherever a saintly person goes, Satsvarupa said, becomes a tirtha or a holy place. And now, for the month of May, Boston is a tirtha, so please take advantage of it. As Srila Prabhupada was leaving with his disciples, a group of Indian faculty members and students came and stood around him, speaking rapidly, challenging him. One student, espousing the philosophy of monism, asserted that the highest expression of the absolute truth was that all is one. Prabhupada tried to make him understand that simply oneness was a rudimentary idea, because from that one comes so many variegated manifestations. But the man would not accept defeat, and Prabhupada became excited, arguing with him. Taking the man by the shirt collar, Prabhupada shouted, you say everything is one, but is this cotton shirt the same as a cotton ball? Why don't you wear a cotton ball instead of this shirt? The Indian technologists surrounded Prabhupada, raising their voices and arguing. While Prabhupada's disciples looked on anxiously, Govinda Dasi warned the devotees about Swamiji's health, and Ramananda and the others smoldered at the offensive Indians. This wasn't the way to speak with a sadhu. Meanwhile, a devotee reported that Prabhupada's car had broken down, and someone ran out into the street to get a taxi. The arguing continued. When a taxi finally arrived, a few disciples pushed through the arguers, insisting, Swamiji, please, your taxi is waiting. It can't wait any longer. You have to go. And they disengaged their spiritual master from the mass of arguing technologists. Prabhupada considered the evening a success. Some of the devotees who had seen the poor attendance at Prabhupada's Boston University lecture feared the same thing might happen at the Harvard School of Divinity. So they suggested Swamiji wait at his apartment while they went ahead to the lecture hall to see how many people would gather. When they saw a decent number gathering, one of them phoned Satsvarupa that Swamiji should come. Meanwhile, at the lecture hall, Joseph Matthews, a graduate student in Vaishnavism, addressed the audience, describing from the mundane academic viewpoint the history of the Chaitanya movement. Prabhupada, arriving half an hour later than scheduled, led the audience in kirtan and began his talk. He praised the Harvard students as fortunate, citing that according to the Vedic literature, aristocratic birth, good education, beauty, and wealth are the four chief material opulences. Compared to others in the world, he said the students at Harvard had all these opulences. If, however, they could increase their good fortune by adding Krishna consciousness, then that would be their perfection. For example, gold is certainly very valuable, but if gold were to have a pleasant fragrance, then it would be even more valuable. Similarly, if these materially fortunate persons could add the spiritual fortune of Krishna consciousness to their life, then that life would be successful. After Prabhupada's talk, Mr. Matthews thanked him for his discourse on Hindu philosophy. But immediately Prabhupada interrupted. Actually, we are not Hindu. And Prabhupada explained the universality of Krishna consciousness. As the meeting broke, Some interested students came forward for more discussion with Swamiji. One Sanskrit student asked, how can a brahmachari be expected to understand the Gita Govind since it deals in so many intricacies of man-woman relationships and love affairs? Srila Prabhupada replied, only a brahmachari can understand Gita Govind because it is not about mundane sexuality. It is the highest spiritual technology of Radha and Krishna. Prabhupada was especially pleased about his Harvard lecture. The next morning, Satsvarupa went to see him with a check of $125 from Harvard. That was a very good meeting last night, Prabhupada said. It seemed to the devotees accompanying Prabhupada from one speaking engagement to another that they were the real audience, the ones to whom Prabhupada was speaking. It was for them that he had come to Boston, more than for the 200 students who sat in the chapel at Northeastern until the bell rang, or the technologists in the lounge at MIT who left after the lecture for the movies and the bars. Prabhupada was setting the example of how to preach. It was for them, the ones who would have to carry on the mission in his absence. From morning till night, Prabhupada spoke about Krishna. All the yogis sometimes take a vow of silence to avoid useless, frivolous talk. He said, one who knows Krishna wants to speak 24 hours a day. When you love God, you want to tell others about Him. And automatically, you write volumes and volumes of books. Of course, many times in the day, Prabhupada was actually silent, alone in his room. But that silence was also Krishna conscious. Sometimes Govindadasi would peek in and find him reading the Sanskrit Bhagavatam commentaries, chanting on his beads, or dozing briefly at his desk after lunch. Sometimes he would sing verses from Chaitanya Charitamrita or walk around the apartment with his hand in his bead bag, chanting to himself and observing his assistants. Govindadasi. In Boston, Swamiji would sing for hours from Chaitanya Charitamrita or Srimad Bhagavatam, just singing with the most feeling all by himself in his room. And I would peek in the keyhole to see how he was. Sometimes I would go in and check on him when he would pause. I would try not to disturb him, just checking. I would just go in to see if he needed anything. Sometimes I would peek in and simply think, who is he? Nobody knows who he really is, or where he really came from, or how great he really is. Especially in Boston, I began to feel very strongly that he was such a great personality and that I was viewing only a very, very minute glimpse of him, and that actually much, much more was going on than I could realize. Hare Krishna. Okay, let's pause here. Yes, realization comes when we are in the association of pure devotees, or the association can be in both the forms, in Vapu by physical association, serving them, or by Vani by following in the instructions of acharyas. So yeah, we see how deep reflection this is what Govinda Mataji is talking about here. That yeah, you know who he is was not known to her at that time, and it may not be known forever for the next 10,000 years. Of course, we're going to read Prabhupada's books, and this movement is going to thrive, multiplying in numbers as it has already in the past 50 years. But yeah, Prabhupada's contributions, again, just as he was saying, the Lord is so great, so great, so great that you can never tire from talking about the glories of the Lord. 24 hours are also less to describe the glories of the Lord. So no number of mouths can describe the glories of the Lord. So like Prabhupada was saying, yeah, we can write volumes and volumes and volumes. So like that, even his pure devotees of the Lord are just manifestations of the energies of the Lord. So just as the energies of the Lord is infinite, the energy of the Lord in terms of his pure devotees are also infinite. Their glories are also infinite. So yeah, how much ever we glorify Srila Prabhupada, it will be less. But again, Prabhupada said that instead of glorifying him, instead of praising him, he would love, if his disciples follow his instructions, follow his character, his lifestyle, how he lived, how he preached, how he rose up early in the morning, how he translated these volumes of books. So how we can go out and we can distribute these books, we can read these books, we can follow Prabhupada's instructions of rising early, chanting our rounds attentively, reading these books sincerely, serving in whatever capacity we can. Like Prabhupada saying, it doesn't matter Whether we are able to accomplish something big or great doesn't matter. As long as you're putting in the effort sincerely, like all these three disciples in Boston were doing, even though it was not grand, some of these engagements turned out to be very less attendance, right? But Prabhupada was saying again and again that just because they are engaged in Krishna consciousness, they are trying to serve Krishna sincerely, that engagement in Krishna consciousness makes everything valuable. So again, the whole theory and whole philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada is trying to make it very practical, right? That you do your karma, but don't worry about the results, right? So if you're doing what we are doing sincerely, selflessly, seriously, then yeah, it doesn't matter what results come after that. That is the Lord's and the Guru's mercy, what comes. But if we are steadfast in our practice and our sincerity, then the mercy will also come. But we don't have to worry about the results. Yeah, it's wonderful. Again, very nice. Every day we learn so many things from Prabhupada and his life, and also from the lives of his disciples. Like they're saying here, their realizations are also very profound. That Prabhupada came there not to preach in these universities, but he actually came to give boost, give that engagement to his disciples. He was talking to them instead of talking to all these so-called technologists and scientists in these universities. And yeah, it's so unfortunate, yeah, that people coming from India, they are challenging their own sadhus and gurus, and instead of having that mood of humility to listen attentively to a sadhu, they are challenging. Again, we can have the questions. There's no harm in asking questions, but asking those questions with a mood of humility, to seeking to learn, to understand, versus challenging and arguing and confronting. So, yeah. Okay, anybody else would like to share anything that you liked? Any reflections, realizations from your own personal lives? We have today Ritesh Prabhu, Prabhakar Prabhu, Minu Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
So, Srila Prabhupada is trying to teach people about Krishna consciousness, take them out of the ignorance or take them out of the nations and bring them to light. Same way I was I'm reading Ramayana at home. So I just want to share one pastime that I read yesterday about Maricha Muni, when the one who was turned into golden deer by Ravana. So after Srupnakha's ears and nose were chopped off by Lakshman, and she went to Ravana, and Ravan went to Maricha Muni and said, "You have to become the golden deer." And that time Marich Muni thinks that, okay, if I don't obey him, Ravana is going to kill me. And if I obey him, Ram's going to kill me. What do I want? So, he got enlightened at that point and he chose to become that golden deer to be killed by Ram. At least he will, you know, it will be in the hands of God. So that's why we always have two choices in our lives, what we do, whether it's going to the movies and going to the bar, like one of the people in Boston, one of the person who in Boston was doing, or we can sit and chant and, be absorbed in Krishna consciousness and purify ourselves. When Ram killed Maricha Muni, he was liberated. So ultimate goal of our life is to be liberated and, merge with or go to Goloka and go to Krishna Dham. So just thought of sharing that, bringing Ram into the light here as well. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Again, going back to the prayers that we sang, right? taking up things that are favorable to devotional service and renouncing things that are adverse to devotional service. So, yeah, like the example, he had to be killed, whether being killed by Ravan or being killed by Ram, and he chose to be killed by Ram. So, even though apparently externally, yeah, he was supporting Ravan, but internally he knew that he had to perfect his life, and his life will be perfect if he's killed by the Lord. So he wanted to associate with the Lord even through that particular act that he did. So yeah, like that. Yeah, we all have a choice at every single moment, and that is the only thing that we have in life: the choice, the free will to choose what we want to do, whether we want to stay in the company of the Lord and his devotees, or act whimsically or act independently on our own. And then that is kind of animalistic propensity, like Prabhupada is saying, eating, meeting, sleeping, defending. Even animals do that. But our goal is to perfect our lives, and that is the goal of human form of life, to perfect our life and stop this cycle, repetitive cycle of birth and death, and go back home, back to Godhead. But yeah, merging is like we said, there are three things: Brahmeti, Paramatmati, Bhagavan. There are three, like Prabhupada explaining. Brahmeti is the lowest form of realization where we merge into the Supreme Effulgence, Brahmajyoti. But then again, just like he was giving the example, we have to fall down because we cannot stay there forever. We will get restless because there's no active engagement there, right? So just like water after evaporating falls back into to become rivers, and then once the rivers merge, they again have to go back and come back down into the material world like that. But our goal is topmost. What Prabhupada is teaching us is the Bhagavan realization, to, like you said, to go back home, back to Godhead, so that we can eternally serve the Lordships there. So that is the topmost form of self-realization, where we are in our pristine eternal Swarupa as the eternal servants of the Lord. And even though while we serve, like, we actually get more joy. Just because we call ourselves servants doesn't mean that we are actually, those are servants of the Lord, actually get more joy and more bliss than even the Lord. The Lord says that जहाँ जहाँ मेरा भक्त कदम रखे वहाँ मैं रखूँ हाथ, पीछे पीछे मैं चलूँ कभी ना छाड़ूँ साथ. So the Lord comes running behind his servants. So it's actually, yeah, gopis derive so much more bliss than the Lord, that the Lord says that I can never repay you, in my life. So that is the goal that Prabhupada is teaching us to achieve. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Anybody else would like to say anything? Okay. I know you also, and some of our devotees are going out to the universities, right? We are doing university preaching, so hopefully you are not having to encounter such argumentative thoughts. But again, whatever comes by Krishna's mercy for our purification. So it only makes us more stronger in our preaching and in our own purification. So hopefully the preaching programs can go on all over in all different forms. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. Okay, we're looking forward to everybody's association today, Saturday, our regular program at the center. We'll have Ritu Maharaj coming to the center today, and Mataji as well. So we can take their association. And I think, yeah, the topic is cooperation amongst devotees in difficult times. So like these kind of difficult times, how these devotees cooperated, and even after Prabhupada left, how these disciples cooperated. So there's a lot that we can learn from the lives of our predecessor acharyas. So let's come together and give our association and hear from Maharaj today. Okay, thank you so much for this morning Japa Sangha association with Srila Prabhupada and with each other. Let's end with Vaishnava Pranam prayers. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyeva patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnavandi ki jai. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.